The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hello, it is Mark Kelly. I hope you're all doing really well. I'm Chief Customer Officer at Alldus, and I'm very happy to welcome to our ServiceNow podcast series, a part of our Alldus podcast, Maik Skoddow. Maik is a ServiceNow Certified Technical Architect and MVP. Maik, it's lovely weather here in Dublin. How are you getting on over there?
Yeah, we have the same weather here. It's still sunny and I hope it will remain, but I heard it should be rain in the next days. Let's see.
So you've worked in IT for several years now. It'd be great to hear about your journey to ServiceNow.
Yeah, I was a software architect for many years when starting in my business career, but I was also a project manager and consultant. And to be honest, I came to ServiceNow quite late. At the end of 2019, due to the poor economic situation in my company, there were no new projects and I started looking around for new opportunities. And that way I came across a new small team which were dealing with ServiceNow, and I was really curious to see what it is. And during the Christmas vacations, I started Googling ServiceNow because until then I never had heard anything about it. And I was immediately fascinated and infected by the extraordinary culture and the endless possibilities the technical platform provides.
Recently, you've been awarded the ServiceNow Community MVP. For those that don't necessarily know about the Community MVP, I'd love to hear about how you've been inspired by the community and why it's important for you to share your knowledge.
Yeah, during my first explorations of the ServiceNow universe, of course, I quickly came across the community portal and I started asking my first questions there because I had a lot of questions. And it was really impressive how quickly the answers often came in. And at the same time, I started networking with other users on LinkedIn, building my profile and so on. And through that, I noticed how some users then proudly announced that they had been awarded a community or dev MVP, and seeing how a kind of hero status was built up for these MVPs made me, to be honest, a bit envious, and I decided to become also an MVP. This might sound strange, but all my life I have used such challenges to move forward and achieve something valuable. But of course, you only can become an MVP if you enjoy passing on knowledge, which is something I still do today. And my first career aspiration was to be a teacher. And even though I didn't become one, fortunately, I always enjoyed guiding colleagues or conducting training sessions for customers. And therefore, I also participate in the mentoring program of ServiceNow. And the biggest advantage of being a mentor, trainer, or expert is that you have to dig much deeper into a topic and you learn much more that way than you were on the other side of the relationship.
I love the way that it also challenges you to be able to really articulate and explain your explanation in a really succinct, straightforward way. And it really comes across how knowledgeable you are because you can do that and people can really learn. And I love that how your aspirations to become a teacher and you've taken that ability to communicate messages for other people to learn from, which is fantastic. Tell us some examples about some of the way that you teach and some of the examples out there of how knowledge can be transferred.
To be honest, in my current situation, I don't have so many opportunities to teach something because I'm doing projects. I'm a technical leader for large projects. But as I mentioned, I participate in ServiceNow's mentoring program. At the moment, I'm a mentor for one mentee. And of course, if the customer has some problem to understand something, I'm always willing to explain ServiceNow. And I also are connected on LinkedIn when if users ask me something. But my only restriction is the time. I'm in my projects the full day, and it's hard to find any free slots to live my passion.
I think you've been quite modest because you've added so much value in the market so far, and people learn from it every day. It's really, really inspiring to hear about your success within the ServiceNow ecosystem within such a short period of time. What advice do you have for others in the community?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think the answer depends on whether you want to ask something or whether you want to answer the user's questions. And in my opinion, the users who ask a question have by far the more difficult job, because asking a clear and understandable question is a rare skill nowadays. And unfortunately, I often see questions where users just have copied a user story or requirement from their current project into the community form without any further explanation. And here I would have to do a time-consuming questionnaire to get all the important details I need for my understanding. And this can take several days and is usually frustrating for both sides. And also many users don't seem to know what the difference between a summary and a detailed issue description is. When scrolling through the list of all questions, I see summaries that are simply truncated descriptions or even incomprehensible, and therefore, I ignore them. A summary should be like a debate on the hook. To get an expert to buy it, the summary must be short and crisp, show the rough direction in which it's going, and above all, make expert curious. And on the other side, if you want to become an expert, you just have to take the first step and answer a question. And please do not be intimidated by other experts. Every one of us has given the first answer at some point. And yes, it can take a long time for you to be marked as helpful or correct. And therefore, stamina is the most important skill if you want to be noticed as an expert in the community. And you will have to have a plan or a strategy. For example, at the beginning, I had planned to answer at least 10 questions every day and to write additional articles on a regular basis. And therefore, you need a plan. You can check whether you have fulfilled or not.
That's brilliant advice. And I like the way you're planning out the allocation of the work that you're going to present to the community, the questions you're going to answer. You mentioned an interesting point, and don't be intimidated. Some of the areas we've seen in the past were that people wanted just to have such a perfect reply or answer that they didn't want to put it out there. So there is an element of it's never always going to be perfect, but you're making a good attempt to help people on their journey. So that imposter syndrome can sometimes jump in, but you just need to really manage it effectively. So your advice is don't be intimidated, just offer your advice, do your best, but be very careful with your time that you actually allocate it effectively so you can actually achieve what you want to achieve.
Yes, exactly. That's a good summary. And I follow the community nearly 2 years now, and it's interesting how many users are challenging to or competing to get a higher position. Sometimes I have the feeling they just want to earn points. This is another aspect of community. But at the end, I think most of the users are there to help other users, and it's a great experience if someone is saying, yeah, thank you, that had helped me really, and this is the best feedback I can get. It's more valuable than any points.
Tell me a little bit about where you were having some challenges with your ServiceNow implementation and work, or maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed. How did you manage that?
At first, it depends on my current project. Mostly in the beginning of a project, you have no time to do something in a community. But after some weeks or months, the project is flowing and you have more time. And then I start checking the community, which new questions are there. And if I see I can answer these questions really fast, I will do this. And sometimes I have an idea for an article in my mind, and then I start writing one paragraph a day, and mostly at the end of the week publish this. And sometimes I have more time, sometimes I have less time. Yeah, it's really dependent on my current project.
Today's podcast has been with Maik Skoddow. Maik is a certified technical architect, a ServiceNow certified technical architect, and MVP. And Maik's been telling us a little bit about his journey to now, how he got into the world of ServiceNow, the importance of teaching and sharing within the community, advice for people who actually enter the community, such as don't be intimidated to pose answers to questions, to learn. It's never going to be perfect. And if you do want to add advice and share your knowledge, be mindful that you need to actually allocate relevant time to it, because it can be a time-consuming process. Even though it can be very rewarding, it can take up your time, and just be cognizant of that with the work that we do. Maik also gave us a little bit of overview about some of the challenges and how he actually managed his time effectively to overcome them. Maik, thank you very much for your time today.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.